Bowl first with Jarrod, Kimber. Now, this is obviously an analysis show. We go deep into, the inner workings of cricket. We go within the stitching of a cricket ball, if you will. We go, past the little plastic bit and the string and the core. Anyway, my point is we go deep into cricket. You can't do that after what just happened with Kolkata, Chennai. That game was batshit crazy. And I won't sit here for the first 5 minutes of this show and go into specific details of things that happened and maybe if they'd done this and do you remember that No, I can't do that because this is one of those games that is actually, it's beyond analysis. It's wacky. It's crazy. Think of just a few of the little things that kind of happened in that second innings. Kolkata were 5 wickets down in the power play. Not only is that supposed to end your game, that's supposed to end sort of any sort of semblance of your, dignity as a batting unit. And instead, Dre Russell just went, do you know what? I'm just going to hit the ball. I'm just going to hit a lot of ball. And then Dre Russell does that for a while. And then finally Dre Russell is out. And even Dinesh Karthik, usually when he's put up the order, just nudges everything. But this day he was just like, do you know what? I want to be Dre Russell. And then when he was finished, then Pat Cummins wanted to be Dre. It was just a succession of weirdness at the end. And all it really did for Kolkata was get them closer to net run rate. They were always just a little bit too far behind. They needed a couple more Sam Curran overs, if you will. Not to say that CSK players and coaches weren't looking around going, how are we going to explain losing this one to our parents? Because there was a lot of that kind of energy as well. There was a lot of Dre Russell sitting on the stairs energy. There was a lot of Shardul Thakur bowling wides energy. There was a lot of weird little subplots and the bowling figures don't quite match up and the batting doesn't make any sense. It was a fantastically entertaining game. It wasn't so much one for analysis. That's not to say that I didn't at one stage have a lot of notes about Faf's knock, and maybe will again, and about the selection of Gaikwad in the first place. At one stage I had a lot of notes down about the fact that one team went with swing and seam in the power play and the other team bowled 3 of the first 4 overs with spin. But who cares? Because people hit a lot of sixes, and sometimes, well, actually a lot of the times if we're lucky, T20 cricket is about a lot of people hitting a lot of sixes. So let's focus on that just for a second. This was a game where Dre Russ himself, left a ball from a left arm seamer down the leg side and it bowled him. And 20 minutes later, no one could remember it happening. That's weird, no? The whole thing was weird. Analyze that. But there's a couple of really, really interesting things that I do want to mention. One is knocking back singles. We've only just got used to, and by we've only got used to, probably not your uncle, maybe you, have just got used to people in test matches knocking back singles. We don't really like it, do we? We don't really like it as a thing. We understand runs. We don't understand the not wanting to take runs. T20 cricket, knocking back singles, I think that just hurts some people's brains. But we're going to have to get used to it. I think I first wrote about this about 5 years ago that it was coming. And it was always obvious that it was coming. I've had many conversations with players and coaches over the years telling them it's coming. And it's almost here. I don't think it happening at the death is quite in excelsis. But what I would say is this. Clearly, this is going to happen more and more and more. Kolkata's last 2 games, they have had batters set at the wicket trying to win the game by saying, no run there. It's an incredible thing. We also had the Sanju Samson game, which is a whole different thing. And I think if you just look at the 2 Kolkata situations and the Sanju Samson one, I think they all add up. Now, you could argue that they could have done the opposite as well, but I think they took probably the best possible situation for them, even if in all 3 situations they lost. Fundamentally, at this point in T20 cricket, a single is an under par ball. If you have more chance the next ball of hitting a boundary than you do the person at the other end hitting a boundary, it makes more sense to say no to the single and take the other one. And the other one is, if you are trying to run a suicidal 2, the chances are that you will be run out running a suicidal 2. That's why they're called suicidal 2s. They're actually called suicidal singles, aren't they? A terrible 2? A testy 2? I don't know. I haven't thought that through. But my point is, if I still have one, is that we're going to see this more and more. Essentially, T20 cricket has changed to such a point that a single is no longer really that big of a deal. Which of course makes it funny that again, Punjab, and we're not going to spend too much time on Punjab, but again, Punjab had early run-outs in their game. And Nicholas Pooran now has 3 ducks in this tournament. And from those 3 ducks, he has faced 3 balls. And one of them, he faced no balls. If you have a player of Nicholas Pooran's ability, and he's getting run out, and you have a player of KL Rahul's ability, and he's getting run out, You can worry about your collapses for your batting all the time. Maybe you should look inward a little bit as well. The other thing that I don't think was mentioned as much and has now become so normal that we just get used to it is the fact that T20 bowlers don't mind bowling wide. Even one-day bowlers don't mind bowling wides that much anymore. And I think the reason is fairly simple. You're keeping the ball away from the batter who's trying to hit you everywhere. You're not really trying to bowl wides, are you? You're trying to bowl just not wides, essentially. And you are trying to just hide the ball. Hide the ball from the batter as long as possible. And all these things make sense. The thing that we don't talk about is what a wide is worth. It's not worth 1 run, is it? It's worth 1 run plus the repeat ball. And being that the average ball in IPL cricket is worth 1.3 runs, essentially a wide is worth 2.3 runs. If you're doing what Shardul Thakur did and you're bowling 3 in a row, then it's worth more than that. But we understand why they're doing it. But the reason I'm mentioning this, so close to talking about the knocking back runs part, is because think about how much this game has changed over the last couple of years. T20 cricket is about restricting runs. It's about efficiency and all these things. And yet we have bowlers who are willingly giving away extra runs that they don't need to give away. And we have batters willingly not running. I mean, we just saw a pretty crazy game of hitting in that game of cricket. And yet we are completely, maybe not fine, but completely understanding of why a batter might say no to a run and why a bowler might intentionally bowl a wide. How far has this game changed? We are through the looking glass here, people. I have so many notes here about schedules and about Stephen Fleming and his selection policies and all these sorts of things. But I really don't think that this is the time and place for it. Let's just have a look at a couple of incredible performances of players who are doing well. Deepak Chahar has made me look at the power play because he keeps taking wickets in the power play. So there's a whole video that you can watch of mine on the power play. Go if you want analysis. There's a lot more analysis in that than there is in this. This is just loud noises at this point. But let's just run off a couple of other players that's probably worth keeping a bit of an eye on. Khalil Ahmed, very, very interesting that he hasn't been an automatic selection so far. But again, there seems to be a lot of younger Indian seamers around who are going to take a lot of wickets but also go for a lot of runs. I'm not exactly sure what that is, whether that's a lack of control or something else, but certainly he looks like he could be one of them. Ngidi is back. I talked about how Chennai would have to fit him in. He just makes their bowling attack that little bit more dynamic. And all they're missing is Dwayne Bravo's batting, which is not what it once was anyway. Abhishek Sharma's mystery ball flick thing is quite interesting. The back spinning, flicking, whatever it was, it could just be a straight ball, but it looks fancy. It's something worth keeping your eye on. He's obviously an all-round talent, very young, spoke very well at the press conference, I thought, afterwards as well. Fabian Allen is finally playing, batting at number 8, which in franchise cricket seems crazy for someone of his talent. Bowled a terrible first over, bowled very well after that. But for Fabian Allen, you also need to factor in the fielding because he's pretty amazing. One thing I want all of you to keep a really close look on is Kolkata's seam bowlers. Pat Cummins is not bowling as good as he could. The local seamers are going everywhere. Dre Russell at the death is not working for anyone at this stage. Kolkata's seam bowlers look very, very shambolic right at the moment. But let's talk about Sunil Narine for a minute. I've made a very big video about Sunil Narine, of which you should go and watch the minute this finishes. I mentioned that he was injured recently as well, and it turns out I was right, and he was injured, and that's why he was missing the early games. I thought he bowled really well. I thought it almost looked not quite like the old Narine. He still went for a few more runs, and I think that's going to continue to go. But he looked a lot better than I remember him looking last season, if nothing else. And he's going to be a very interesting one to watch. He also batted today, I think. I think Kolkata had a top order. I don't remember seeing that much of it, if we're being honest. Anyway, bowl first. We'll be here again tomorrow. Come back, and we'll do all of this again with maybe more analysis and less batshit crazy.